Remote work was the exception rather than the rule prior to the pandemic. Now it is a widely accepted practice, but building your team in a remote environment can be really challenging. Our special guest today has had a remote team for years, and he is going to provide us with some of his real world experience, his advice, his tips, so that we can learn from what he has done so we don't have to make some of the same mistakes. I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks if you want to accelerate revenue growth. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I'm really excited to have Rusty Fulling from Fulling Management and Accounting with me today. Rusty, welcome and thanks for being here.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me. It was great to visit with you earlier this year and hear your podcast. So.
Yes, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we're not going to talk about what you do. We're going to touch in on what you do at Fulling Management, but we're not going to talk about accounting today. We're actually going to talk about remote work, right. Which I think is a super relevant topic. And I can't wait to hear what you have to share. I have had a remote team for a long time as well. So I think we're going to have a great conversation around this. Before we do that, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions. Help us get to know you.
All right. All right. I'll be ready.
Good to go? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
So about 3 years ago, we were blessed with one of two now little granddaughters. And so that's probably where I spend most of my non-working time, is just getting to hang out with the family and enjoying the local walking trails.
Awesome. And so you can spoil them and then send them home.
Send them away. I do come back though, so that's good. So,
yes, good.
Absolutely.
What's your hidden talent?
Oh man, hidden talent. Hidden talent. I was a puppeteer for years, so actually doing puppets.
Okay.
So my goal in life years ago was probably to be on Sesame Street. So. Still working on that.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, best advice. Man, there's been so many. I would say just move. Sometimes you just get stuck, and sometimes it's just move. Just get that momentum started. Yeah. So I'd say that's one that's just stuck with me. So
that's a great one. Super simple, but when we start taking action, we learn from that action, and we can iterate and adjust. Yeah. What's one thing about you that surprises people, other than the fact that you're a puppeteer?
That's right. So I've been in Kansas for, 30 plus years. Grew up in Texas. The house that my wife and I bought here was built in 1860 when Abraham Lincoln was president.
Wow. Dang. So have you had to do some updates?
We just got indoor plumbing about a week ago. So we're really... So yes, a few updates over the years, yes. And we are not the original owners. Some people have asked that before too. Like,
yeah.
No.
That's good. I like that. What does success mean to you?
Yeah, I think over time, I think it's just watching people that we've invested in really begin to thrive. And that to me is success when you're kind of that legacy builder piece. So that's been big.
Where's your happy place?
Oh man, well, I've already talked about the granddaughters. Probably, sitting outside on a nice day with a book in hand.
What qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
What qualities do you value? There's a Proverbs that I love. It says, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffer harm." So I love those people that are encouragers, that build each other up, innovator, just some of those kind of qualities. So wisdom, encouragement, and innovators would be some qualities I really like. So
awesome. So before we talk about remote work, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at Fulling Management Accounting.
Yeah, so we started, almost 23 years ago now, and our main focus is providing accounting, business coaching, and CFO outsourcing to help small business owners get clarity, grow their profits, and gain peace of mind. And so we have a team of about 15 now. spread across the country. And I think we've served clients in about 27 states now across the U.S.
Wow. Any particular industries that you enjoy working with?
Yeah, there a lot of good industries. We were looking at medical and bioscience was kind of our target, and we noticed the medical field, the small practices were getting bought up by hospitals, and so we began to shift. These days, we're not so focused on industry as we are leaders, and so we're looking for leaders with integrity, leaders that see value in outsourcing. So really looking more for that leadership of a business versus the industry.
Yeah, got it. So let's talk about remote work. You've had a remote team for a long time prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Just tell me more about that. Like, why did you do that, and how do you manage your remote team?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking here, remote team, probably 7 or 8 years ago. I would say we started really getting into that more. We had remote clients for 20 plus years, but our team probably just more recent in the last 8 to 10 years. Some of it was just finding talent that was flexible, and so we were looking for flexibility. Where you fast forward today, and I think it's the other side where the team member is looking for flexibility. So that was a big piece of it. And so we used some of the online gig places where you just hire somebody for a short gig or a short project, and through that process we began finding team members that is like, man, we want this person more than just a gig,
Right.
and so just begin building some of our team in that form.
Yeah, it's so you wanted people you wanted flexibility. That kind of spurred looking for people
Yeah.
remotely. At the time, did you actually have an office with staff in it,
Yes.
or you
Yes.
did?
Yeah, we had a small office at the time, probably 2 or 3 of us in the office. And so we began adding, I think we added one team member and maybe 5 hours a week remote. And then over time, they grew to 10 hours a week and 15 and 20. And so kind of gave us a little bit of runway versus
Yeah.
just jumping in and having a 30 or 40 hour a week person. So that was really helpful. And then our internal team, our in-office team, the relationships are pretty close, pretty tight. So part of that was just learning how to incorporate that person outside the four walls.
Yeah. So it's almost like you started to walk before were running.
Yeah.
I like that idea of kind of, hey, let's try this 10 hours a week, and okay, this is working pretty good. Let's increase that. So I'm sure that made you feel a lot more comfortable starting to branch out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that allowed us to do is we were able to test out, let's say, multiple providers, multiple remote workers, and honestly, some of them they weren't necessarily a good fit, and your risk is minimized
Yeah.
in those forms. But boy, those that really fit, you can continue to add to, and so that's worked out well.
Now, do you have an office still, or have you gotten rid of your office entirely?
We do actually have an office space still in the Kansas City area, in Olathe, Kansas. We probably are in there, oh my goodness, maybe 5% of the time, if that. When I say we, it's kind of nice if team members that are local, that are working from home, want to run in and just have some quiet time
Yeah.
to work in a more professional office. And we do have clients in the building and the facility we're in as well. So that's always nice to get to meet with them. But we would not have to have it. It is a nice extra for what we do.
Yeah.
We just flew everybody in, all of our remote team members in, and we did a 3-day offsite retreat. And part of that was spending a little bit of time in our office place before going offsite. So you can see some of our photos on our website from that event. So
how do you manage people remotely? I mean, are there some tools that you rely heavily on that have helped you?
Yeah, early on, it was more of a hey, they're remote and not really part of the team mentality. And I think that was definitely not the wise thing to do. But it began to incorporate them. So we just use simple things like Zoom
Yeah.
on our staff meetings. And so once a week, we have everybody's kind of an all play every Tuesday morning at 8:30. Everybody logs in, and so we're actually seeing the entire team every Tuesday morning for an hour. And so that plus throughout the day and throughout the week, we have strategic meetings, strategic check-ins, communication going through things like Microsoft Teams, again, Zoom, some of our workflow management systems. So definitely have incorporated it as much as possible, just as if they were working right down the hall from us.
Do you have any ways of like tracking productivity and production, or are you concerned about that?
Yeah, and I think early on it was a little bit of that. Boy, I hope they're doing this.
Yeah.
So, um, and so that's where the workflow management tools are extremely helpful because you can actually see as they're almost they're checking things off the list or they're documenting here's what's going on. That's been huge, and it's cloud-based type software. So
Yeah.
I definitely say if folks are looking to outsource their team members, just have some type of collaborative effort, collaborative software that they can work within because you never want to wonder if somebody's doing something.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, and some of that can be verbal too. We do daily check-ins, and so it's, hey Tim, what do you have going today? Oh, I've got these projects, and great. You meet tomorrow. Hey Tim, how'd that project go yesterday? Or
Yeah.
oh, your kid had a softball game. How did that turn out? So we try to incorporate both the work and the personal in some of those. Again, kind of that water cooler talk almost within a virtual environment.
Yeah. I think, because so all of the people that are on our team are remote and they're overseas.
Oh yeah.
So, when I heard people talking during the pandemic about asynchronous work, I was like, what the hell is that? And then I realized, oh yeah, okay, I've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but some of I love some of the things that you touched on here. You're certainly having consistent meetings.
Yeah.
The daily check-ins is great.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I do is I get just an email at the end of their workday that just is like, hey, what did you work on? Is there anything you're stuck on? What do you need help from me with? And I don't necessarily spend a ton of time on those emails, but I just want to make sure that if they need something from me, that they get it. Your workflow management tools, we're using project management software. That's or our CRM, depending on the team member. And those are really good ways for us to just get an idea of what's happening. Are things getting done?
Yeah.
I've just gotten to a place where I'm like, look, you need to trust people that are on the team. If you can't trust them, then like they shouldn't be working with you. And, we got to treat people like adults, trust them and let things go.
Absolutely. And Tim, I think one of the things that I think did right in the process is we treated our remote workers just as if they were in the office in the interview, in the hiring process.
Yeah.
And so we have several steps in the process. And I think the only thing that we didn't do was a lot of times we'll get together for dinner right before the offer. And we didn't always do that on our remote team members, but going through and treating them, they're the same as somebody sitting down the hall from you. So that's been extremely helpful.
Yeah, one of the other tools that I use multiple times every day is Loom, which is screen capture software. There's a ton of software like it out there, but dang, when you just need to walk somebody through something, it is so easy and just so much more effective. And we just have tons of tools that help assist with remote teams at this point. We just need to know what we need and go find it.
Absolutely. We had a team member that worked for us a number of years ago and actually has come back recently to help on some project work. And it was funny. We were going, and they actually would come in the office back in the day, and we were introducing, hey, now here's how we do things now. And they're like, oh my goodness, this is so nice because everything's here. I mean, and they're working, they can literally work from anywhere. But all the project management, all the files, everything that they need, is very accessible for them. And I think, going a little further, the security piece is the other thing too, that, make sure that's amped up even that much more. If you're doing a remote team. And so we've invested, I would say that was one of the investments that we've done and continually do, is not only our IT infrastructure and management is definitely elevated. And we do monthly training for our team on security and things like that, just around the whole IT infrastructure. So those are just kind of those built in. If you're going to go this way, it's not always, hey, let's just get it rolling. Kind of think through some of the strategy to make it make sense long term. And put the right tools and right security in place. So
let's talk about company culture, because throughout the pandemic, it came up a lot. Like, gosh, we're really struggling to build our culture in this remote environment. You touched on a couple things that I think we can pull off of here, or at least I want to pull out. One, you mentioned, hey, we just recently got our entire team together for a 3-day retreat. I see that as one of the things that you're certainly doing to build culture, but you also touched on your hiring process. And I think the hiring process is one of the key aspects that a lot of people miss in building their culture. I think if you hire the right people that are the right fit, that share the same values, that's going to help naturally build your culture. What other things are you doing? What other thoughts do you have on what I just mentioned there?
Well, I'll just say that our offsite retreat this year, our theme was our core values, and our core values acronym is GRACE, GRACE, and so we use that as kind of a launch pad. But the cool thing is we went over those. So G is for growth. You should be personally growing, professionally growing. And it was really neat. Even into this morning's staff meeting, it was neat to hear some of our team members jump into, hey, by the way, here's what I'm doing to grow this, this week or this month. And so that was huge. And then R is called represent the client. It is, hey, make sure you're doing things, think like the client. Make sure they're the important piece in the cog, that we're serving them. And then A in the GRACE is accountability, and that starts at the top, and making sure that things that we do as leaders, that the team is seeing that it's on behalf of the leaders, on behalf of the team, clients. And then C in GRACE is champion attitude. Man, you're going to have a bad day every once in a while, but you got to bring that attitude. I mean, you got to bring that good attitude, that champion attitude. Because that it's going to go a lot longer in a good way doing that. And our last one is really somewhat personal to us as in our leadership team, is what we call eternal impact. And what we're saying in our core values is we want to have a bigger impact than just the numbers. We want to help change lives in what we're doing, and that could be financially, it could be relationally, it could be, but the things that we do in our day-to-day operations, man, it ought to be making impact beyond the business. So that's our GRACE acronym, those core values. So when we're hiring, it's phenomenal. The number of prospect team members that gravitate to that. They're like, oh, this is exactly what, these are my values. And it's just one of those little check marks that say, hey, there's somebody we ought to talk to, because they already are in alignment there. So that's one. The other neat thing we've done, Tim, is in our Tuesday staff meetings, is we'll spend about a half an hour going through tactical things. And then the last portion of that is typically a culture video, a lesson of some sort. And so this month's lesson is, it covered things like growth and I'm trying to think some of the other some of the other things, but it's neat. Then we break into small groups on Zoom, and it really helps people get to know each other when they're in that smaller group versus the big piece. And we've even had team members that have come on board and they've said, you know what, I've gotten to know people here in a remote environment much better than when I was working in the corporate world and they were right down the hall. And that's just being intentional about building those relationships. So those are a couple things that come to mind when you're asking about that.
Yeah. So with the videos, are those always related to one of your core values?
Core values?
Yeah.
Not directly. The series we're in right now is very close. It could be, we did one, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge by Clay Scroggins. That was a good series.
Got it.
And so it could just be leadership development with our team. So we want to develop folks that are in the bookkeeping stage and administration stage, all the way up to that CFO level person. And we want to make sure that we're growing them as leaders. And it just filtrates through the rest of our services and our clients and so forth.
Yeah, I love that. One of my mentors talked about, like, with building company culture, he talked about, like, gently, but relentlessly beating the drum. Like, you're just doing it over and over and over again consistently. And it sounds like you're really doing that when it comes to your values. And I think when you all share the same values, I think it's so much easier to build a company culture because you have similar standards.
Yeah, absolutely. We call that you need to have a chief repeating officer.
Yeah.
Repeat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it once. Let me say it again. Repeat.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you touched on with, one of your team members talking about, hey, this is what I've done to grow this week, right? Yeah. It can be as simple as that. Like, hey, anybody want to share what you've done this week to live out our values, right?
Yeah,
and absolutely. I think that can spur great conversations. So what are some of the benefits that you've experienced in building a remote team?
Yeah, when we got together as a group for this offsite, so everybody flew into Kansas City, and I had not met a handful of our team members in person up to this point because we had COVID and actually that wiped us out for like 2 years as far as getting it in person. And so we scheduled Monday morning to go to our actual office space here and take pictures. And I thought, hey, we'll slot 30 minutes. It may not take that long for pictures. Tim, we were there over an hour, and it was because people were laughing and it was like a high school reunion. And I'm thinking these people have never even, this was the first time they've actually gotten together in flesh.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, in fact, at the end of our 3-day deal, we kind of went around the table and said, hey, what's one of your highlights for, this event? And more than one said, it was just the laughter, and just enjoying being together.
Yeah.
So that to me was one of the huge benefits of when we're talking about being virtual. I think there's so much more we can do there. And I think people sell it short by just, being it more transactional and making the transactional relational. And so that, to me, that's where you win.
Yeah. Do you feel like being open to remote team members has opened up opportunities on the recruitment side of things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Our last few hires, I'm just trying to think through here, Wyoming, Ohio, Texas. So definitely opens it up for, I'd say a little bit of diversity, just from different, even if you're looking at locations, I think there's some neat things we get even from that. So sometimes some heckling for those that aren't Kansas City football fans. It's been a little bit, we may have to do some payroll deductions on that, but no, it's fun. It is really neat, to get to meet others and hear what's going on in these different parts of the country even. So.
Yeah. Do you see remote teams also impacting retention and engagement?
Yes. And you're talking about for clients or for team members?
For team
For both
members. So
team members, yeah.
retaining team members for longer and
Yeah.
their engagement while they're with you.
Yeah, and I would say yes, but I might put a little asterisk by that, because I do think there are those. In fact, I had a team member recently that said, I really need that in-person interaction.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important in that hiring process to identify those folks that they really crave that. And
Yeah.
in a remote environment, you may not have. I mean, the video is going to be a lot of your relational piece, and how do you make that work? So I would say, when you get the right people, and if your hiring process is geared towards making sure you're listening for those, yes, the recruiting, the retention, just the job satisfaction, the flexibility. There's so many things that can happen. So I've heard of too many companies saying, "Hey, COVID's over. Let's all get back to the office," and people have kind of built a system working remotely, and I think that's where we've seen some of the great resignation kind of things. But we've also getting the great return.
Right.
We've had team members that have come back and joined again after being gone, and being called into the office, and it's like, hey, we kind of enjoy what we were doing before. So.
Yeah. There certainly are companies out there now who are forcing people to come back in when it's not really required. And I think those are the types of companies that are going to have a really hard time, because unless there's a justifiable reason for it,
right.
You've had people working remote for a long time. Why are you forcing them to come back?
Yeah.
But I also think that they're going to have some recruiting challenges and retention and engagement issues as well. So, because this is the way we've always done it, has never been a good philosophy in running a business. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to be open, as open-minded as possible. Rusty, this has been a great conversation. Any last minute thoughts, words of wisdom you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, I'd say continue to grow. Man, that has just been such a fascinating thing to see, even in our team, and the investment in some of the growth areas. So, just find ways to either self grow or through your company. So that'd be the big thing. So,
where can people learn more about you?
You bet. So our company website is fullingmanagement.com, or FULLINGMGMT. Or they can look me up by going to rustyfulling.com. So
awesome. So if you liked what Rusty had to share today, you want to connect with them, go there. We'll make sure that information is all in the show notes for this episode as well, so that you can easily find them. Rusty, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Like I said, I've been doing remote stuff for a long time. So hopefully people picked up some great tips that they can use. And if they haven't been doing a lot of remote stuff, maybe they'll shift their path a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Tim. Sure appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. And those of you that are watching, listening, thank you. I appreciate you. Again, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. If you want to get visibility to your revenue roadblocks that are slowing down your growth, you can head on over to revenueroadblockscorecard.com. Takes less than 5 minutes. You're going to get a customized report so that you can discover and assess what's been slowing down your growth. If you want to actually talk to us, you can always head on over to rialtomarketing.com. Book a free GPS call. I'd be happy to chat with you and help give you some guidance on the direction that you should head with your marketing based on where you are and where you want to go. Till next time, take care.